Welcome back into the College Football Every Game on the Board podcast with our next guest up, Jeff from Oskiem Sports, WagerTalk.com. Jeff, how you feeling?
Good, Drew. How are you today?
I'm doing good, man. You know, a lot going on in the world, but we're right here going through every single American football game, and I'm loving it, man. So thanks for joining me, Jeff.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Let's do it.
All right, let's get after it. It's the Pac-12 is coming into action here. We got Arizona State at USC. We're seeing the Trojans minus 11, minus 10.5 home favorites here, Jeff. 58 being the total.
Yeah, this is going to be a very good game. A lot of hype around this USC team. They have 17 returning starters, including their quarterback Slovis, who was the Pac-12 Freshman Player of the Year last year. They're loaded with talent and experience. I think they're fifth in the nation in returning production with 82%. Their defense is going to be strong. 11 of the 13 top tacklers return this year. So new defensive coordinator, Bo Orlando, should have that unit playing really well right from the outset because of the experience. Some concerns I have with USC would be the technical issues with the technical situations in this game in particular. They're actually 2-8, Drew, their last 10 season openers against the number, and they're 0-4 their last 4 against the number in season openers. They're 3-7 against the spread their last 10 home openers. And if you look at Arizona State, they're actually totally on the opposite end of the spectrum in terms of experience. They only have 4 offensive starters back, and they have a new motion offense under first-year offensive coordinator Zach Hill. So that's going to take a while to incorporate and get the players used to that, and it's going to be a lot of rust, I think. It's going to be a few weeks before Arizona State's offense gets going the way they really want it to. Their defense is going to be stronger. They have 8 returning starters, and their top 4 tacklers are back. I lean with USC in this game, but I caution people who want to lay the number in this game. Herm Edwards actually won in the Coliseum in 2018, and he was 4-2 against the spread as an underdog last year.
Herm Edwards. Man, one of my favorite coaches out there in college football. Always good to see his name. Good stats there on the USC home openers. I would point towards that being towards the coaching. I mean, I guess it could be school-wide, going back 10 years. I know USC's had a couple coaches here. Would you attribute that to anything in particular here, Jeff?
I really don't. I can't really pinpoint what it is. What's interesting to me is their season openers over the last 10 years. I mean, 2-8 against the numbers, so they start slow. So people should remember that. Yeah,
but who knows? Possibly a little bit of a tax there on USC out the gate. We got Stanford at Oregon in the Pac-12 up next. Looks like Oregon minus 10-point home favorites here against the Cardinal. 51 the total in Oskiem.
Yeah, Drew, again, Oregon is going to get a lot of the hype for the Pac-12 this year. They obviously have the talent on both sides of the ball. I have them ranked as the best defense in the Pac-12. They're actually young and inexperienced. They're 89th in the nation returning production with only 57%. They only return 11 starters. And obviously the big elephant in the room, they have to find a quarterback because Justin Herbert is playing on Sundays for the Chargers. And they actually have a new offensive coordinator, an entirely new offensive line. Their best offensive lineman opted out. All 6 of their starters in and out of last year are gone. So that's going to be an issue Oregon's going to struggle with early on, but they do have the talent and depth on the team. Stanford, loaded with experience, are 28th in the nation in returning production, 16 returning starters. They have one of the best offensive lines in the nation. And we know one thing about this team, the Cardinal, they're coached extraordinarily well. David Shaw, they will be prepared. They will play the game right. I don't see a lot of mistakes being made. And they do have an experienced quarterback with Dave Mills, who I think he appeared in 5 or 6 games last year, played relatively well. The only caution I had with the Cardinals, they're 1-6. Their last 7 as road underdogs. I don't have a strong opinion on this game. I do lean with Stanford plus the points if you're going to take this game, because of the coaching edge. And the Cardinal, they're always coached well.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's definitely a good point, Jeff. Shout out to the chat box as we get going here in the Every Game on the Board. 4th segment for this week. We had the Maction first segment, then the first 2 segments with Robbie Vino. We bring in Jeff here. We had Mid-Major Matt, and Teddy Covers will be the closer on tomorrow's card. Shout out to the chat box guys. Johnny Outlaw. We got Rara in the house. Johnny Outlaw saying you play to win the game in reference of
good old Herb. I love it.
Yeah, that was always a good one of my favorites.
That's good.
As we stay in the Pac-12 here, Jeff, all Pac-12 starter. Washington State at Oregon State up next. We see the Beavers -1.5 or -2, 65.5 the total in this one.
Yeah, I think this line actually flipped from the opener. I think the Washington State Cougars were favored initially. Now they're getting 1.5, 2 points in the market. And I think what people are overreacting to is Mike Leach leaving the Cougars, going to Mississippi State. But now the new head coach for the Cougars, Nick Rolovich, he actually coached at Hawaii the past couple of years. He is a run and shoot guy. So he's a plug and play, just like Mike Leach's offense was. So the players are going to be used to his offense. It's not going to be a large learning curve. They have 13 returning starters, not an extraordinarily experienced team, Drew, but I would say, and their quarterback has to be replaced, and their top 3 wide receivers. Interesting. The Cougars are 6-0 straight up the last 6 in this series. The new quarterback, Jaden DeLora, is actually Hawaii, a very highly recruited player out of Hawaii. And of course, Nick Rolovich hails from Hawaii, coaching there the past few years. Beavers, Jonathan Smith, I really like him as a head coach. He's improved the totals every year for the past few years. They are young, 84th in returning production. They lose last year's quarterback and their top running back, but their defense is going to be significantly improved. They went from 126 2 years ago to 93rd in S&P in the defensive category, and I think that's going to continue to improve for the Beavers. 7 of their top 8 top tacklers are back. I think Washington State, my math screams Washington State. My gut tells me that the Beavers at home in their season opener will play extraordinarily well, and I lean with them slightly, even though it's against my math model.
Okay. We got Fresno State at UNLV up next, Jeff. 363, 364 if you're following along at home. 12:30 Pacific kick here in Allegiant Stadium. I believe a limited number of fans will be here right down the road from where I'm talking to you now. 58 being the total, -11. That's what Fresno State, the Bulldogs, are laying in Sin City.
Yeah, how about Fresno State? What a bounce back for them. They lost their season opener against Hawaii. They were upset, and they flipped the switch, and they actually upset Colorado State last week. I think that was on a Thursday night. So Fresno State enters 1-1. But here's a letdown situation. Off that upset win, they are 1-7 against the number. Their last 8 as a favorite following an upset win. So be on the lookout. Red flags here with Fresno State. Could be a letdown spot for them. They actually have won the last 2 meetings in this series. The score is 48-3, 56-27. They've dominated the last 2 meetings. Here's the issue. Bulldogs, 0-6 straight up, 2-4 against the spread in road openers. That's a problem. They're running Rebels. They bring in the new head coach, Marcus Arroyo from Oregon. I really like him. He has some talent to work with, but it's going to take some time. They're 0-2 straight up and against the spread to start this year. But Charles Williams in the backfield, he has actually almost reached 100 yards rushing last week in their loss, and he's going to have room to run against his Fresno State run defense. That's I think yielding over 5 yards per carry. I like UNLV, the home dog. Grab the points. Don't be surprised if the running Rebels pull it out outright.
Looking towards the running Rebels here in Vegas.
You got to go, Drew. You got to go. I expect you to be there.
I would love to. I mean, although I will say this, the mid-afternoon games, Jeff, as you know, being a bettor, it's just tough to get away to go to one game to watch. I would rather go to like a Thursday night game or something of that nature. It's easier for the schedule.
Plus, it's UNLV. I mean, let's be honest.
I don't know.
Exactly the most exciting game.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with that. Meaning, like, I'm kind of a Sun Belt Conference USA guy anyway. I like going to those games, so that doesn't really bother me as much. It's just more when you go to a game, especially if you're having some cocktails with friends, it really ruins your whole day of gaining information and knowledge on what's happening in the gameplay. Therefore, the next week you're way behind the ball. You know what I mean? Absolutely, totally understood. Yep. All right, we got Washington at Cal up next in the Pac-12. We're seeing the Cal Golden Bears -1.5, -2 at home, 43 being the total, Jeff. Yeah, Drew, this is another one where the market flipped, I believe. I think Washington opened up as the favorite, the road favorite. That's where my math agrees with the initial opener in this game. I have the Huskies favored by close to 2.5, 3 points in this spot. Now California is laying a 1.5. And I think what people are looking at with the Golden Bears is they have a new head coach with Jimmy Lake, who was handpicked by Chris Peterson. So there's good continuity there. There's not a lot of changeover after Chris Peterson left. And the problem with
And the problem with the Huskies is they're 104th in returning production, which is only 52% of their players last year are back, only 10 returning starters. But here's interesting with Washington, who I like in this game, getting the points. They were 8-5 last year. Their average win came by over 23 points a game. Their average loss came by 5 points per game. So they were competitive. They blew out teams when they won, and they barely lost when they lost. The underdog in this series is 10-4 with seven outright upsets. So I think initially people like getting the Golden Bears plus the points. Now I'm not sure. I expect the market to shift here before kickoff. I think the Golden Bears might be getting a point or even a pick 'em before kickoff. I think this market's going to switch over. But I like Washington plus the points. The wrong team is favored in the spot.
All right, good stuff there, Jeff. Heading to a little bit smaller conference football. We got Appalachian State at Texas State in the Sun Belt here, with App State laying 17 in the hook on the road, 56.5 being the total in San Marcos, Jeff.
Yeah, this is a game where I typically would not lay the points with Appalachian State and not get involved laying points on the road like that. But one of my best statistical profile indicators is triggered in this game. It's 34-6 over the last decade, and it plays on good defensive teams versus very, very poor defensive teams. And that's precisely what we have here with the Mountaineers and the Bobcats. Texas State, though, to their credit, they're 1-6 straight up on the season. They've lost 5 straight. But look, 4 of their losses have been by 10 points or less. They played a very difficult schedule: Boston College, BYU, Louisiana Lafayette. They've been outgained by 119 yards per game on the season. That's not a surprise. But they're actually a 64% against the spread winning proposition as home underdogs of more than 14 points. With that said, the technical situation is too strong to back Texas State. I lean with Appalachian State minus the points.
All right, Jeff, we'll move down here to the AAC, South Florida, USF at Memphis. We're seeing Memphis minus 18, 64.5 being the total in the Liberty Bowl.
Yeah, Drew, did you see how many rushing yards Memphis had last week against Cincinnati?
I want to say not very many at all.
3 yards, 3 rushing yards. So, but I think they're going to get some relief this week against a South Florida defense that's ranked 84th against the run. Here's the problem. Memphis, 1-12-1 against the spread as a home favorite versus a rested opponent since 1985. That's a real problem. South Florida, I really like what Jeff Scott is doing with this team. Yeah, they're 1-5 this season, 0-4 against the number for the first-year head coach. But this team has been ravaged by the COVID situation in Florida and the spike there down in Florida. So it's really not a good situation for them. It's unfair to blame Jeff Scott. He's played at least three quarterbacks in 4 games this year. So he can't really settle on a quarterback either. South Florida's in disarray. Memphis, I think, has mailed it in after last week's loss to Cincinnati. That's way too disheartening. And they are not good laying numbers against a rested foe. 1-12-1. I would avoid this game altogether.
Okay, looking to avoid that one. We got Big 12 action here, Jeff. Kansas at number 19th ranked Oklahoma. We're seeing the Sooners minus 37.5, minus 38 points here, 63 the total.
Yeah, how about the Sooners? Off a 62-28 win over Texas Tech. They scored 48 points in the first half for the first time since 2008. Not very surprising. Texas Tech's defense has been a very big disappointment this season. You look at, Kansas. Texas Tech's defense has been a very big disappointment, and I think we'll get to their game a little bit later on, but the alumni are really growing tired of Matt Wells and Texas Tech. You look at the Sooners, they have the 8th best havoc rate in the nation, 21.61%. You look at Kansas, they allow they allow the most havoc in the backfield when they have the ball. This is a complete mismatch as the point spread shows. The only concern I have with Oklahoma, they have Oklahoma State on deck. So it could be a prime look-ahead spot for the Sooners. I would lay off this game altogether. You can't take the points with Kansas. I mean, they're just unbettable at this point.
Yeah, that would be a tough one to bet. And yeah, Bedlam on deck. It makes it probably a stay away for me as well, Jeff. We got Jeff from Oskiem Sports, WagerTalk.com. Check out his handicapper page, Oskiem Sports there, up 224% net profit produced all time at WagerTalk. He's not a high volume guy. More selective with his plays. That's what I would recommend out there, guys, if you're looking to get into this business. Just kind of selective where he's got an edge. That's always a good thing. 29-13, 73% all time on his 5% NFL plays. Also, what's some 5% NBA basketball plays? Very good as well. So, Jeff, been seeing it good for quite some time here, guys. And check out his packages. You can get single packages, 3-day, 7-day packages at wagertalk.com. Also, the November special, $199. You get all of his college football and NFL action for the whole month of November, 5 full weekends there for under $200. So check that out. And Jeff, anything you wanted to throw out there on just being selective as a sports bettor and that being the way to go?
Yeah, I don't judge those. I have colleagues who are high volume. They look at middling games, in-game betting. I completely respect that approach. For me, I try to target the top 2, 3, 4, or 5 games a week that provide the best value and what I perceive as the best return on investment for my clients. And those are the ones I release to my clients. And of course, I bet on every game that I release to my private clients. I think it's really important with my handicapping methodology. It's very conservative, meaning it needs to reach a threshold level for it to even be considered a best bet. And then from there, I look at technical analysis and situational analysis to decide whether it's going to be a 2%, 3%, 4%, and 5%. This upcoming weekend looks like I'm going to have a 5% NFL play. Last Sunday, I had a 5% NFL winner on the Miami Dolphins, an outright underdog winner. I think we have a similar game this Sunday, so be sure to check it out. I should have something up in the next day or two if it does qualify as a 5%er.
Outright underdog winners. Those are always nice. So check them out. WagerTalk.com. Oskiem Sports here. Up over 70% with those 5%ers. And its track record's not too short. I mean, it is not a long sample size, but guys, with the low volume there, it is something that I would point you towards. So we got Texas Tech at TCU up next, Jeff. 62 being the total, -8.5. That's TCU at home.
Yeah, TCU off a decent win, a road win over Baylor, but I can't get involved with Gary Patterson anymore as a home favorite. When TCU is laying points, they're 5-16-1 against the number, dating back to 2016. You look at Gary Patterson going back even further. He's 28-40 against the number as a favorite, following a straight up and against the spread win. So I'm hesitant to back TCU in any spot when they're laying points at home or even on the road. With that said, their ground game actually looked pretty good last week against Baylor. You had Darwin Barlow and Zach Evans really running hard, over 200 yards combined, I believe, for them. And I think they're going to have some room to run against this porous Texas Tech run defense, is allowing over 5 yards per carry this season. Like I said earlier, Matt Wells at Texas Tech, I think he's on his way out. The alumni are not happy with his results for the Red Raiders. The Red Raiders, they're 97th in scoring defense with 41 points per game. They have no quarterback. He's rotating 2 quarterbacks. And what I always say, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. You need to settle on somebody. He can't even settle on one of them. I don't like that rotational play that he does. And I would avoid this game altogether.
Okay. We got Oklahoma State at Kansas State up next, Jeff. 45.5 being the total. Oklahoma State, like we talked about earlier with Oklahoma Bedlam on deck, they are having to lay doubles here, 11.5 or 12 in the Little Apple.
Okay, so I don't have Oklahoma State in my schedule, Drew. So I apologize.
It might have dropped out there. That might be my fault.
Maybe it did. It could be my fault. It was a late night. I was up watching the election results, and I haven't slept much. Let's put it that way.
Okay. No, it's definitely understandable. And as we go in through so many of these games, guys, I guess the couple things I would say here, if it's still on the board, it might just be my odds service a little slow here, but we got -11.5 with Oklahoma on deck. I'm really not usually interested in laying doubles on the road as it is in college football, unless there's something really pointing me towards it. I don't really see anything in this game that is. So I would look towards Kansas State, and you can get them as high +12.5 with that big game on deck for Oklahoma State, but nothing I bet personally in this one. We got 377, 378 up next. West Virginia at Texas, Jeff. 55 being the total with the Longhorns, -6 in the hook at home.
Yeah, how about Texas off that overtime upset over Oklahoma State on the road last week? Here's the problem. That was an inside-out win, like I like to call it. They were outgained 530 yards to 287 yards, 5.8 yards per play to 3.8 yards per play. There was a success rate disparity between Texas and Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State, 49% success rate, Texas, 29%. Texas finished with a +4 turnover margin in the game, which allowed them to ultimately win the game despite being outgained by almost 200 yards. The Texas Longhorns crossed Oklahoma State's 40-yard line last week just 6 times. Tom Herman, 0-4 the last 4 games off an upset win. I wouldn't touch Texas in this game with a 10-foot pole. Keep me away. Mountaineers, I love what Neil Brown is doing as a head coach in West Virginia. They have one of the best defenses in the land. They're winning with defense. The defense leads the nation in yards allowed per game. They have the 5th best havoc rating in the nation at 22.53%. Here's the issue. The Longhorns allow a lot of havoc in their offensive backfield. I think there's going to be a mismatch here. I think Texas is still celebrating. I can see them doing keg stands all week long after that big win over Oklahoma State. Tom Herman, not dependable, not reliable as a favorite. I would take West Virginia plus the points, sprinkle some on the money line. The Mountaineers win outright.
Wow, nice call there. I'm with you. I like the Mountaineers as well. And like you said, the head coach Brown coming over from Troy, what he was able to do in the Sun Belt, now doing it again here in the Big 12. I would look towards the Mountaineers as well. It looks like you can get them +6.5, guys, and the money line. Sprinkle a little bit on there. Jeff thinks they go into Austin, come out with the win. So we got Nebraska at Northwestern to finish it up. Then we'll get a most confident or best bet pick from Jeff to finish off the podcast for today. We'll bring in Teddy Covers tomorrow. And guys, make sure to check out Jeff on wagertalk.com. He's up over 200% all time at WagerTalk. His plays are all available there. This is a Sports Memo podcast. Every game on the board, also simulcast on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. So we got Nebraska at Northwestern to finish it off here. We're seeing Northwestern -3.5, 55 the total.
Yeah, it's kind of a funny line. It kind of smells fishy to me. It makes me want to take Nebraska just because the line seems so far off. And I always tell people, if a line seems really far off, always side with the odds maker's error, what you perceive as the odds maker's error. I'm not sure if they're trying to get you to bet Northwestern. It seems like a short number to me. My number is a lot higher, my math model number. But it's hard to know what to get with Nebraska, right? They got destroyed 52-17 by Ohio State in their season opener. Then they've had a bye with the COVID situation. 9-16 straight up under head coach Scott Frost. If you go back even further without Scott Frost, are 10-22 of their last 32 games straight up, dating back to 2017. I'm not sure what we're going to get from this Nebraska team. They've only played 1 game. Tough to know. You look at the Wildcats, one of the most improved teams in the nation. They're off to a 2-0 start for the first time since 2013, which really helped them experience and continuity in a season where both are critical. Same head coach, vastly experienced with a lot of players returning. And it showed last week against Iowa. They were down 17-0 on the road. I think it was on the road. And they came back to win the game 21-20. That just tells you the heart of this team, the experience, the veteran leadership the Wildcats have. The home team, though, in this series is 0-7 against the number of the last 7. Here's the most shocking trend I came across, and it came in this game. Northwestern, 16-1 against the spread as a favorite versus teams off a double-digit loss. 16-1 as a favorite versus a team entering off a blowout loss.
Heck of a trend there, Jeff.
Yeah, I have no opinion on the game because I can't get a feel for what we can expect from Nebraska.
Yeah, that's a tough one there. And that trend, I don't know if I'd go that way, but that's pointing me definitely towards one direction here, Jeff. So no, good stuff, man. And that finishes it off for this section. Man, hit a lot of conferences here, a lot of trends, a lot of writing down. Almost one I got to go back and listen. But like the chat box is saying, always good stuff from you on the podcast. Guys, come back next Wednesday. Jeff will be back on breaking down next week's card in college football. But Jeff, do you have one that you're most confident in here, a kind of a best bet for the section? Yeah,
of all these games in this section, my best bet will be UNLV, the Running Rebels, plus the points.
All right, UNLV as the underdog at home dog here, might be barking +11. UNLV hosting Fresno State on Saturday in Allegiant Stadium. Give him a follow on Twitter at Oskiem Sports. His work, wagertalk.com, up over 200% ROI since joining WagerTalk. 5% plays up over 70%. So seeing it well, low volume, guys. If you like that type of handicapper, which is the type of kind I would kind of point you towards, Jeff's your man. Jeff, anything you wanted to throw out here before we shut this down?
No, I appreciate it. You having me on tonight. I appreciate everyone tuning in to watch the show. You do a phenomenal job, Drew. Everyone does that with Wager Talk. I'm just really honored to be part of the team and part of the family over at Wager Talk. But on this Sunday, I do expect to have a 5% play in the NFL. I'm going to have it up in the next day or two. If it does qualify, I'm waiting for a specific line. And if it hits that line, you will see it up for sale. So check it out.
All right. For Jeff at Oskiem Sports on Twitter, I am Drew Martin on Twitter at Drew Martin Bets. Guys, we'll bring Teddy Covers on tomorrow, 1:30 Pacific time in the afternoon. Come join us for the rest of the college football card. And other than that, enjoy Maction tonight and best of